Hey guys, as you can see, I was continuing to unassembling the engine. I did remove the oil pump and I heard back from my machinist that oil pump has a stuck valve, so that's why pressure was not releasing when it's going above 40. So he think cannot be fixed, so I need to get a new oil pump. However, I did review everything about this engine, and again, I'm not going to say definitely, but the issue is this is the seal, this is the rope seal, and I'm going to remove it. I'm going to remove the rope seal, but put a brand new rubber seal on the last groove, outer groove, and there will be no rope seal in this slot. For now, the reason I think is the second groove where I installed the rope seal. The first groove on this side is the outer side of the engine towards the flywheel. This rubber seal is good, but this rope seal is not, and I doubt it meant for rope seal. I believe it's supposed to be left empty, so oil pressure buildup here out of the bearing will go in this drain. So basically, think about this is the inside of the engine towards flywheel, so oil builds up right here and it has to release either this side of the engine or this side, outer side towards the seal. What if this seal, rubber seal, is not strong enough for the pressure it builds? So I believe based on the design, I think I'm making assumption any excess oil coming towards the flywheel is supposed to go into this groove, and these grooves have these two holes. If you see these two holes to drain the excess oil inside the engine. Okay, so if you follow me, oil is building up inside the bearing. It has to release, leave the bearing either this side towards the engine or outside towards this side, outer side, where we have the rubber seal which will block that oil going outside the engine block towards the flywheel. If we block this slot, the second inner slot, with the rope seal, then oil will not drain whatever builds up here, and it will put the pressure on the seal and it will leak. I believe excess oil is supposed to go in this groove before reaching to this rubber seal and drain back inside the engine. That's one reason I have. I believe the oil pump was like that before with the higher pressure and relief valve wasn't working before, but since I did not have this rope seal before or from previous owner, that oil pressure was not building up and it was not leaking from the seal. So I'm going to remove this rope seal and put bearing cap like this. Why I think this is, one, I think I did not see the rope in my original installation when I was initially unassembling it. I did not see the rope seal here. Also, I think this rope seal basically is an alternate, or was the original design. For the original design, this rope seal supposed to be used here instead of, so in 1956 when this engine was built, that time these rubber seal was not available and they used to use these rope seals. So when you don't see in your rebuild kit, in gasket kit, when you start rebuilding it or buying a kit, if you don't see the rope seal, it means you should have this black rubber seal instead of rope seal. So don't get confused. That's, again, I'm making a big assumption that rope seal was the original design, but now as technology advances we have the rubber seal and it should do the same job. The other thing I remember my machinist says, don't put the rope seal is because it's going to create a high temperature on the crankshaft. So he was right. I believe he did not complete his sentence, that there is only one place for the seal and there is only one seal at the end. I was under the impression that rope seal plus rubber seal needs to be there, is because I found a YouTube video where the gentleman was rebuilding a NA engine, Jubilee, and he put both seals. So while watching his video, somehow I registered that, okay, he's doing right. I believe he was not doing right, and that's my assumption again. So again, it's a hit and trial. I don't have somewhere written it, because I did check the manual, shop manual, and it has only one seal, which is a rope seal. So that's all I have, guys. I'm going to continue and get back to you. Hey guys, as you can see, I was continuing to unassembling the engine. I did remove the oil pump, and I heard back from my machinist that oil pump has a stuck valve, so that's why pressure was not releasing when it's going above 40. So he thinks cannot be fixed, so I need to get a new oil pump. However, I did review everything about this engine, and again, I'm not going to say definitely, but the issue is, this is the seal, this is the rope seal, and I'm going to remove it. I'm going to remove the rope seal, but put a brand new rubber seal on the last groove, outer groove, and there will be no rope seal in this slot. For now, the reason I think is the second groove where I installed the rope seal. The first groove on this side is the outer side of the engine towards the flywheel. This rubber seal is good, but this rope seal is not, and I doubt it meant for rope seal. I believe it's supposed to be left empty, so oil pressure build up here out of the bearing will go in this drain. So basically, think about this is the inside of the engine towards flywheel, so oil builds up right here, and it has to release either this side of the engine or this side, outer side towards the seal. What if this seal, rubber seal, is not strong enough for the pressure it builds? So I believe based on the design, I think I'm making assumption the any excess oil coming towards the flywheel supposed to go into this groove, and these grooves have these two holes. If you see these two holes to drain the excess oil inside the engine. Okay, so if you follow me, oil is building up inside the bearing. It has to release, leave the bearing either this side towards the engine or outside towards this side, outer side, where we have the rubber seal which will block that oil going outside the engine block towards the flywheel. If we block this slot, the second inner slot, with the rope seal, then oil will not drain whatever builds up here, and it will put the pressure on the seal and it will leak. I believe excess oil is supposed to go in this groove before reaching to this rubber seal and drain back inside the engine. That's one reason I have. I believe the oil pump was like that before with the higher pressure, and relief valve wasn't working before. But since I did not have this rope seal before, or from previous owner, that oil pressure was not building up and it was not leaking from the seal. So I'm going to remove this rope seal and put bearing cap like this. Why I think this is, one, I think I did not see the rope in my original installation when I was initially unassembling it. I did not see the rope seal here. Also, I think this rope seal basically is an alternate, or was the original design. For the original design, this rope seal is supposed to be used here instead of, so in 1956 when this engine was built, that time these rubber seal was not available and they used to use these rope seals. So when you don't see in your rebuild kit, in gasket kit, when you start rebuilding it or buying a kit, if you don't see the rope seal, it means you should have this black rubber seal instead of rope seal. So don't get confused. That's, again, I'm making a big assumption that rope seal was the original design, but now as technology advances, we have the rubber seal and it should do the same job. The other thing I remember my machinist says, don't put the rope seal is because it's going to create a high temperature on the crankshaft. So he was right. I believe he did not complete his sentence that there is only one place for the seal and there is only one seal at the end. I was under the impression that rope seal plus rubber seal needs to be there, is because I found a YouTube video where the gentleman was rebuilding a NA engine, Jubilee, and he put both seals. So while watching his video, somehow I registered that, okay, he's doing right. I believe he was not doing right, and that's my assumption again. So again, it's a hit and trial. I don't have somewhere written it, because I did check the manual, shop manual, and it has only one seal, which is a rope seal. So that's all I have, guys. I'm going to continue and get back to you. Hey guys, so here's the important update for my Ford 640 tractor. Second time overhaul, partially. So now I have things figured out, and let me describe what was the issue before, if you were not following my previous videos. Was after rebuilding my engine, putting it back together. I started it, ran 10-15 minutes for a day, and then second day when I start driving out of my garage, I saw oil was dripping in between engine and transmission mating plate. So I figured out the rear main seal was leaking, and that's what happened. Oil leaked. Now I believe this video going to be very important for people who are about to start rebuilding their 640 tractor or similar, and they may be following some other videos, YouTube videos to rebuild. One thing I want to make sure you understand what my mistake was and why I have to split my engine second time the very next day and do some investigation and then figure out why the rear main seal leaked. So one issue was when I started my engine, the engine oil pressure was above 80, or actually it was maxed out on the gauge, which was 80 psi. So that was one problem. Was the oil pressure oil pump had these oil pumps have has a relief valve inside. What it does is basically when oil pressure exceed the spring pressure, or like, which is basically spring has a strength of 40 psi, between 40 and 60 I believe. If it exceed the oil pressure exceeds 60 or whatever the strength of the spring, it will open up and divert the oil from engine block to the pan back, so it won't pressurize the system. So that was one problem with the oil pump. So I have a replacement pump. This one is a replacement pump. The original one, my machinist basically looked at it and he said the relief valve was wedged in because the cavity it was not centered, so somehow it is pinned and wedged. That was the cause he explained. So he gave me the second pump, which I think is a good deal. So this is supposed to work now. All I did is I just cleaned up the edges of the gasket he placed. I believe he took mating plate, the back plate from my old pump, and put back in this one, and because that plate has one hole and this oil pump has two, one is inlet, one is outlet. So so these pumps are, I believe, kind of general purpose for or used for different models where they need a different feed from pump oil pan to the block. So in short, the same kind of pump will work with different model which has different connectivity with the inlet and outlet tubes. But this is not the point. The point is like he made it work, so it should work. I will test it anyway. The second thing, very important thing, why even 80 psi was the pressure, but why rear main leaked? The other reason is, if you have seen my older videos when I started rebuilding and putting back my rear main cap, remember there was a lot of thinking going on in my head. What kind of seal goes here on this cap? This is a rear main cap. I removed it, and these are the metal this is the last one. This is the middle. So there, the problem was, I'm going to show you what was the actual problem. At least the problem I had was, when you buy a gasket kit for these tractors, it may come with a different kind of seals for rear main bearing. Sometimes it will come one with the rubber seal and one with the rope seal. This is a rope seal. Okay, so rubber seal goes in this tiny slot, a groove, and the rope seal, as you understand, may go here. Why I think this rope seal will go here, because I was following another YouTube video where the gentleman was rebuilding the engine, and he installed the rubber seal and he installed the rope seal in these two grooves. And I believe, if I understood correctly, I'm going to watch it again just to make sure that was the mistake he did, or it was just my illusion. So what happened is, these tractors engine 134, they have these two grooves. The outer groove is for the rear main seal, and inner groove is not for a seal. So just remember, the lesson out of this video is, there is one place for the one seal. There are no two seals goes on this cap and on the block. Why? The reason is, if you receive these seals like rope seal and rubber seal in your kit, do not use rope seal. Again, I'm talking about Ford 640 tractor. It may be different, but so far the problem with my engine was, I was trying to be smart and I was just not paying attention. Even I noticed what I'm going to describe you again. I thought in my gasket kit this was missing, so I ordered it separately. I did install it. Even my machinist told me you don't need to install rope seal. Even when I asked him, he told me this, but he did not understand what I'm asking. I'm asking is to install the rubber seal as well as this rope seal. No, this is completely wrong. Rope seal used to be for when you didn't have the rubber seals available in the market to rebuild this engine. So rope seal was the original part used to seal the cap, rear main cap. However, as technology developed in the market, these rubber seals start coming out, and these rubber seals are the replacement for these rope seals. Remember that. So rubber seal goes on this outer groove, which is this side. This groove will remain empty. Now, I knew it, I understood it before, but again, I was trying to be smart and I was just under the impression two seal needs to go here, which is not true. Why this groove is here and why you do not need to install any seal? The reason is, think about this. I'm going to place it back here. This is the inside of the engine. Crankshaft is this side, and this side is the outer flywheel side. Okay, so oil will come on this bearing from the hole on the block, and it will lubricate make a thick film of oil around this inside this bearing and between the crankshaft and the bearing. Now this oil, when it will fill up completely and the oil pressure equalize everywhere in the system, in every pore of the oil, on all 3 or 4 journals on the crankshaft on the block, then this oil, the film of oil between the crankshaft and the bearing, needs to leak, because it doesn't have more space to fill, so it should leak somewhere. One way it will leak from this side, inside the engine. Once, and some oil will leak this side. There's no design to just leak on one side, so it is going to leak on both sides. Okay, but when it's going to leak from this side, it's going to drop in the pan, oil pan. And when it's going to leak this side, it will, if this groove is not here, it will try to go towards the seal, and if there is no other place to leak or relieve the pressure, it will leak from this seal. This seal is not strong enough to hold a 40 psi pressure. It will just hold enough pressure just to lubricate, basically no pressure, because it has a very tiny lip, which is basically bare minimum. It's going to touch the crankshaft journal, and that's it. So there is no pressure. This seal is not meant for pressure or against the pressure, and pressure is 80. If it's 80 psi or 60 psi, it's not going to hold. That's what happened. Why my rear main bearing leak, because I put the rope seal in this second groove. So okay, when this groove will be filled, let's say if I don't put the rope seal, this groove is now empty. Still this groove going to fill with the oil when its engine is running, and when it's filled, it's going to wants to leak this way. So the smart people, the engineers who designed this, in this bearing cap, rear end cap, on this cap there you can see these two holes. These two holes are towards the inside the engine. Okay, so when it's going to leak, I want to show you how it's going to be. So if you see these light, if you can see the light, these two holes are inside this groove. So I believe you are following me. So this groove is to release the excess oil between bearing and the seal. So there will be no pressure if these holes are not blocked, and this oil will simply drop in the pan. What I did, my mistake, now you can already figure it out. I put this seal, I blocked those holes, and whatever oil was coming towards this, so this seal is no seal basically. It didn't do anything. So it has some, so why it leaked, it did not prevent the oil, because if you can say like, hey, there are two seals, why the oil leaks on this side, is basically this seal didn't do anything. I believe there was a gap, or is going to be a gap, because this needs to be a little bit outside of the groove, so it will be really packed between the crankshaft and the groove. If I install this seal on this outer groove, then it won't be flush with the cap surface, so then it will seal. But now this new technology design or whatever, I mean this seal is a replacement of this. You don't need to install both together. Very simple thing. Leave this groove alone. This is to relieve the pressure. If you now, I think I explained it. I talk too much, but I believe you got this idea. So remember that if you get seal, both kind of seal, rubber seal and rope seal, you're going to install rubber seal. Rubber seals are very good. The reason is, now I'm making sense what my machinist told me. Do not install rubber seal. The rope seal is this is going to be very tight seal against the crankshaft, and when you start your engine, crankshaft will become hot because of this seal is rubbing against the crankshaft. So that is one kind of failure he mentioned. Is making sense? Again, I mean, you better, so that's the good part, is when you work with experienced people. So do not install this rope seal, just install the rubber seal, and that's all. Okay, that will make sure your rear engine's rear main is not leaking. So I think I explained it more than it needed. So my next step is I'm gonna wash clean the engine again. Since I opened it, I removed the oil pump, I removed the crankshaft, now it's out. Only camshaft is intact, head is intact. I did remove the rocker arm assembly. I did remove the timing cover or cam cover from the front, so I can remove the crankshaft. Now I'm not sure, I haven't done this before, but when I was rebuilding the engine first time, I installed the camshaft and crankshaft first, and then I installed the piston. But right now I did not remove the head, so pistons are intact as is, but crankshaft we removed. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I don't think it's going to be a big problem, but I have to be real careful not to scratch the crankshaft with these bolts. So I'm going to protect with the rubber tubes I had before, and I will install two together, like a far side pistons first, then push it down, then bring these two middle two up, and then bolt them. That's what I'm thinking. So yeah, it's going to be a different process than normal one. So remember this, that's what I did. I have already cleaned the surface, but I bought a surface grinder, or it's a disc grinder, I think it was. It'll just remove the, oh no, I'm sorry, I think this is the polycarbide abrasive wheel from Harbor Freight. It is made of like hard plastic. So I'm thinking I'm going to first try it outside of the engine block, like on the sides, to see how it cleans. Once I can understand its function or how it behaves with this engine block, then I'm probably going to use here, or maybe not. I will simply just use some kind of solution to wipe it. That's all. So again, I'm going to put it back again, this whole engine, and I will be good. Thank you guys. And as you can see, this is the rear main bearing journal, and this groove was also packed with the rope seal. So you need only one seal, rubber seal. So I have a replacement seal. I'm not going to reuse this seal. Just to let you know, I'm going to remove this and put a newer one. I probably already showed you in my other video. I bought a Felpro kit from yesterday's tractor. It's a replacement for this. By the way, this one is made in China. The one I bought from Felpro is made in USA. So that's one thing to be proud of. Alright guys, bye. Hello guys, I just want to show you how to cut the rope seal for rear main bearing. Rope seal, I'm using rope seal because my newer technology rubber seal failed twice, and I think it's just basically doesn't have enough thickness or rigidity to hold against a simple oil, and even if it's not pressure, it has more chances to twist if it's not appropriate size. So I'm going to go back again old school. I just installed this rope seal in the rear main cap, bearing cap. So the important thing to consider when you install the rope seal is how to cut the rope seal, excess rope seal from both ends. If you see, these rope seals, if you see, cut very clearly. I mean, the right word I would use is clean cut, razor sharp. And I want to show you what tool I use. So this is Fatmax, Stanley Fatmax. It has this blade, and I did not use this tool. And this is the tool. It has a brand new blade, and even this Fatmax knife has a brand new blade, and you can see it's not used. This one has a brand new blade, and this is used to scrape or stuff out of the flat smooth surfaces. So this is a tool I did not use. The tool I use is a regular kitchen knife made of Faberware. My wife doesn't know, but I'm using it, and I used it. So idea is how kitchen knife can do this precise cut. Because if you go and do cooking in kitchen, then you know how clean it can cut. But the only thing I did to this knife was I used this $2 tool to sharp it. Is really sharp. I don't want to touch the blade. So I'm gonna use this knife for the rest of like a week by myself. Won't let my kids or wife use in the kitchen because it's super sharp, and I use this tool to sharp it. And what I did is I'm gonna remove this knife away just to show you how I did. So this is a paint mixer wood stick. What I did, it has enough thickness so I can lay my cap next to this, not on top, next to it, slide it towards. So this rope seal will be sitting on top of this mixing wood stick, and that's where I use this knife, and I basically simply slide it for each end away. So for this end I slide it backward towards me, and for this end I slide it forward, and I cut it individually. First this one, both excess rope pieces are removed, and they are really cut really precisely, nicely. So I think this is the best thing you can do with the rope seal. So that's all. That's a small video and to show you how to cut the rope seal. Bye bye.